It is 6:30 p.m. in the economic capital of Cameroon, Douala, and of course in the outskirts of DBS television. Televiewers of Viewpoint, good evening and welcome. In tonight's edition, we are going to be looking about the prediction of Dr. Nick Nkwanyam, a social entrepreneur and a political analyst, about 2022, how Cameroon will be a better place to be this year. And let us welcome our guests. Do not forget that it is a special edition, reason why we are recording out of our studios. But then, in our subsequent edition, we'll be back into the studios. Good evening to you, Dr. Nick, and it's always our pleasure having you on Viewpoint.
Oh, thank you very much, Vanessa. And then good evening to our listeners. It's great to be with you. And like Vanessa said, 2022 is going to be a great year because there's going to be a change of mindset in the nation. It's very, very important, and I can promise you we are starting this year and we are going to beat Rwanda, Ghana, Botswana and a couple of other African countries as what we are doing.
Just talking about winning, yesterday we actually won Burkina Faso. A great victory for Cameroon. Kudos to the indomitable Lions. Is that in a way a gateway to the successes you're talking about this year?
Well, I was not counting on football as a success because we need to be doing a lot of serious things. But I'm happy that Etofis was there, because you saw the difficulties we've been going through. If Etofis were not there, it would have been a real mess. So congratulations, Mr. Etofis. Continue doing your job, and I hope that if given a few years, it's going to correct all the mess that Fecafoot could not correct in 20 years.
Hopefully.
And of course, you know that after the AFCON, this current AFCON, you see all those beautiful structures. They have to be put to use to be economically viable, and that calls for some entrepreneurship.
Doctor, you described yourself as a man who saw the tomorrow. A tomorrow where West and East Cameroon will have two capitals.
That's right, yes, there will be two capitals. There will be three capitals in Cameroon, actually. There would be those federal capitals: the capital of West Cameroon, the capital of the capital of West Cameroon, the capital of East Cameroon, and then the national capital. The national capital will be in Yaoundé. The capital of East Cameroon will be on the river Sanaga at Ebebda. It will be a very beautiful capital. I can see it in my mind's eye. The capital of West Cameroon shall be between Bacho, in Manfé, shall be in Manual Division, shall be between Bacho and Widukum. There's a beautiful piece of land there. And what's going to happen is that architects are going to, lay out the land, map it out, draw some beautiful, nice streets. We'll just go to a place like New York or Washington and copy those, or Abuja, just copy what is there and come and put there, so that we have some beautiful modern cities. I mean, I think the time has come for Cameroon to grow. If someone told that we are going to have one of the best stadiums in Africa or around the world, we would not have accepted, right? But that's a good example. So we have started on a good foot. So we need to have our own capital as beautiful as the one in Abuja, and that's what we are going to get. What happened to cities like Yaoundé and Douala is that these were some little villages that just started to expand, and so they expand. Though they are our big cities, they are big cities with a village mentality and village layout. So now we've got to do things properly, so that in the next 100 years, our children will still be proud of our two new capitals and other cities that would come along. So that's what we're going to get. And like you were saying, I'm sure you were asking a question about decentralization. Yes. So
no, we were still to get to that. We were talking. We were still to get to that. So talking about West and East Cameroon actually getting two capitals is in a way also decentralizing the 10 regions of Cameroon. Yeah. And talking about decentralization, you made known that SDOs, mayors will no longer be appointed, but they will be elected, and locals will be given the opportunity to carry out some developments in their localities.
That's right. It's a big package. It's a big package, and for that package to really work, let us say that the word decentralization as used by Westerners is not the same way we understand it in Cameroon. But let me just use it and then correct, so that we get it right. Cameroon is going to be decentralized at twice at two levels. The first decentral is like taking a big cocoyam and breaking it first into two, then after that chopping the other bits. So what I'm saying is Cameroon as a nation will be broken into two major parts, West Cameroon and East Cameroon as we know it in 1961. Then we will go into West Cameroon and decentralize it so that the Southwest Westerners can function independently of the Northwesterners and not have this impression that the Northwesterners are sitting on them or are marginalizing them. And also in East Cameroon, there will be decentralization so that the people of Marwa, the people of the West region, don't feel that the people of the South Center are marginalizing them because they'll be able to do their own things. And the beauty of the whole thing is that, up until now, DOs, SDOs, and governors have been appointed. Now, in this new Cameroon, they will no longer be appointed because, in a way, sometimes you have people who don't have the capacity, but because of connections, they are appointed, and that creates a lot of problems. And they have no no respect for the community. They pay more allegiance to the person who appointed them because that person decides whether they stay on or they go. So, but this time around, it's the population that's going to elect their administrators. That way, the people are accountable to those administrators, and that's going to reduce corruption. That's going to make sure that way the budgets will be properly used, and there will be a lot of accountability. So that's what you're going to see. No more appointments of SDOs, DOs, and governors. They will be they will be elected by the people.
By the people. Yeah. Creating two capitals, effecting decentralization. Let's not forget, Doctor, that this comes as a result of the ongoing Anglophone crisis that is gearing to almost 6 years. And so there are a lot of diverse ideas, federalism, unity, and all the like. So with the major national dialogue that took place, actually, how is this going to come into play with the divergent opinions that the various leaders do have?
Okay, before I even get lost into that, let us refresh our mind on what the Anglophone problem is, and also what His Excellency President Paul Biya said in Paris during the Paris Peace Summit, that was coordinated by Mr. Mo Ibrahim. Now, to the Anglophone problem, let us say that the whole nation of Cameroon is suffering from what we call bad governance. Okay, and we could talk about bad governance the whole day. Bad governance is a big package that goes for a lot. Okay, there's corruption, the whatever, lack of development. It's all bad governance. We can talk about it now, but let's. Yeah, there's a lot of bad governance. Okay, let's just agree that there's bad governance. All what the opposition parties and people have been singing about, you can put it under that thing called bad governance. Now, so we have agreed we have bad governance that affects Francophones and Anglophones, and probably when you go to the Anglophone, it is cranked up a little bit, because they are treated as second-hand citizens. And then there is this thing called marginalization, where the Anglophones are having a bitter dose of second-class treatment, and that it's an open secret. And that happened because the majority Francophone government decided that the Anglophones should be converted in their mindset and thinking to become Francophones so that they are easily manipulated and managed as a nation. But unfortunately, the Anglophones have a way of thinking. They are proactive and they know their rights, they know how to think, and they refuse to become Francophones. That's what has caused the problem. And the President Paul Biya, speaking to Mr. Mo Ibrahim, accepted the fact that that was an experiment in bad taste and something ought to be done about it. So I guess it's time for us to correct it, because though he accepted it, he was saying this when the major national dialogue had already taken place. And you know that the major national dialogue did not really address the root causes of the Anglophone problem. It was not a dialogue, it was a monologue in which a group of friends gathered together and were talking to themselves and saying nice things to themselves. And that's why, and they ended up with those resolutions plus a special status that does not really put its finger on the issues that the Anglophones are suffering from. Which now explains why we'll need a second dialogue which will be true and genuine, organized in love and with all fairness. It's a round table where everybody's voice will be heard and all issues are on the table.
So,
That's how it's going to be.
so doctor, with some like discussions being held in Canada, the Swiss mediation, when do you think another dialogue can take place?
No, that dialogue depends very much on the Cameroon government, and when President Paul Biya will put his foot on the pedal, it would happen. Anytime he decides to put his foot on the pedal, it would happen. And you see, when Ambassador Thibault Nagy was speaking to Mr. What's his name again, the guy from ABC television in America recently. He was saying that Anglophones don't speak with one voice. There's a lot of bickering and anger amongst them, and they don't know how to engage the international community, and their ideas are not streamlined, and they seem to have ego problems, fighting each other instead of facing one direction.
So they are not united to
They are
achieve
not
what they want.
united. They are not united, and therefore he was calling for them to be united and face in one direction, so that the solution to the Anglophone problem should come much sooner than later, because with those divided thoughts and bickering and insulting each other, we are only prolonging our suffering, and the international community will not take people seriously. And therefore, like I'm saying, this dialogue is going to come, and people should be ready to go on board and have this problem sorted out. And while we were speaking off camera, I was telling you that there are three fronts to solving the Anglophone problem. There are the unionist, then the federalist/confederalist, and then there are separatists. The separatists, also called AMBA. Now, those are the three thoughts as to how the Anglophone problem should be solved. The unionists are those people who are born out of the heavily centralized government, who don't see power going away from the central command to the periphery, because in reality, with a centralized power, they were able to hitch themselves into some very comfortable seats, and then they put their mouths and their lips on the nipples of the state and have been sucking the state dry. So they hate to take their lips off the milk, the free milk, and so they always cook up ways of trying to dodge from the real solution. The real solution to the Anglophone problem is not the major national dialogue and the special status, because that is not it. We didn't really face the problem squarely, and so those are the unionists. Then you have the federalists and confederalists who are saying that, look, we should go back to something that we started, go back to the 1961 and then panel beat it a little bit to be more palatable, and have these new capitals built and so on, and give people their liberty to be able to think for themselves. Now, for instance, with the current situation, if a man wants to make love to his wife, he has to take permission from the SDO, which is not right. People should be able to think and make their own decisions, not that the SDO thinks for them. It's not correct. People are mature, and you should not have someone comes from some other village and is telling you how you should run your house. It's wrong. And then if the separatists, they never intended to be, and they didn't want to be. It's just that sometimes when a solution is not forthcoming, then people become radicalized, and especially when the guns came in, then that changed the whole picture. And the whole picture is getting even worse with the improvised explosive devices, which is making a bad situation worse. And we ought to put on our thinking caps and see how we get ourselves out of this nasty situation much sooner than later.
Okay, Dr. Nick, in your predictions for a better Cameroon 2022, you equally made mention that we need to wipe out corruption, and you think that with the existence of INAM, the National School of Administration and Magistracy, we cannot combat corruption.
Yeah, if you are an entrepreneur like I am, I have an entrepreneur mindset. Well, I'm a medical doctor, but I was born with an entrepreneurial mindset, and I've done a lot of travel, a lot, seen a lot, and I know how things work. The way a nation or a system works, a nation like this one, you need to have a grasp of the politics. You need to have a grasp of economics. How things work, how you make money and spend money. You need to have a grasp of development, all sorts of development, and you need to understand that these three things, they spin around very well when your education is right. But when we see the way the nation is functioning, And when you look at the profiles of the people who have gone to ENAM, let us first start off by saying that ENAM has got many departments. We have the judicial department in ENAM, training magistrates and other court officials. We have the customs and taxation, and then we have administrators. Now, we can create a law school. We can create a law school where we train those magistrates. They don't have to be in ENAM. We can send taxation and customs under some faculties. All right, we can send them under some faculties, and it must not be a grand école. It must not be that when you study taxation, the government must employ you. No, it must not be that way. That you study customs, they must employ you. No, it must not be that way. And you shouldn't write a concours to go to those places. You study and then you ask for your job. If you have a job, fine. If you don't have a job, do something else. Then, now we come to this headache called public administrators. The way the public administrators have been trained, you know, that the whole idea came in from France. And so they just wanted a group of people who would be like shepherds, who would be herding, you know, Cameroonians in a way as to please the French, the colonial masters. And as far as the colonial masters were concerned, economic development was not for you. Economy is not for you. The development is at their pace. The education, even if you want to change their education, you have to come and ask them. So in reality, they didn't really care very much about you. They cared more about having some peace around so that they could do their business, you see. So they crafted a curriculum which trains these people for 2 years. It doesn't matter, you go to the university, study, I don't know what, then you're picked up in one way or the other and put there for 2 years, and all they're teaching you is law and order. Beyond the law and order, don't ask them questions on economics, development. No. So like I said in that listing, they go around with a hammer. Everything is just law and order, nailing people up. No, but that was for 60 years now, and Cameroon needs to move forward. And people who understand politics, who understand economics, who understand development, who understand education need to take over. Otherwise, the country will not move forward.
Yeah, Dr. For long, you have been advocating about changing our educational system on several platforms, on Viewpoint equally. You've talked about changing our colleges, changing our technical schools into comprehensive schools. Now, with the introduction of the competency-based approach, the CBA, do you still think that our educational system remains a sham?
Yes, the educational system is still a sham because you have brought the competence-based system and you are putting it in a container that is not right. The competence-based system operates best when you make the structure to be these comprehensive colleges, and then you change the whole vision and the curricula in our primary schools, secondary schools, and universities. Then you will no longer be talking about competence-based education, because that is exactly what it is. You understand? It's not just going around and telling stories and so on. So it will just fall in place and will just flow. So technically, we are saying change the format and change the content.
All right. So how can that be changed from our colleges to our technical schools and our universities that mostly trains students, and at the end they found themselves jobless?
If you look at the universities that have just been created, the 3 state universities, if you had looked at the authorizations, the authorizations that have been, or the decrees creating them that have been signed, in each of those universities there are 2 sets of schools. There's our traditional faculties, and then there's what you are calling Grand École. If you now go to the Grand École, actually the Grand École is what matches what you and I are talking about. So the question is, why do you have those faculties and Grand Écoles? We don't want faculties and Grand Écoles. We want systems that train people. Are you getting me? So there's a faculty of science, which is great. And then you should have, you know, what you are calling Grand Écoles. All those universities should have those Grand Écoles. Then faculty of sociology, faculty of law, literature. We have a lot of that in all the other universities. What we need to do is to tap them down a little bit and channel our youths into those technical areas where they are productive. We don't need to continue to produce more of what is not yielding fruit. Is it making some sense?
And the head of state in his end of year traditional address talked of creating 3 more universities in the south, in the east, and in the far north, I think so.
That's exactly what we are talking about. You are creating them, just creating them is not good enough. we need to, you know, redirect all those universities into an area that is productive, like agriculture. And then even all the other 7 state universities, we need to reformat them.
Doctor, do you see that happening in 2022?
Yes, of course, all of that will happen. You see it happen.
All right.
It's about political will and knowing what to do that is right, just and good, and just do it.
So how bad has our politics affected our nation? You know, very often they say politics is a bad game. Politicians have been criticized that they create a lot of division. There is hate speech taking place. There is tribalism being promoted by these political leaders. So how well or how bad has it affected our country?
That's right. You see, politics is the engine that drives everything. You know, you're like a human being. You know, you're a spirit being, right? You're made of a body that we are seeing, but you have a soul and a spirit. If you have a spirit of God, you're a child of God. You have the spirit of the devil, you're horrible. So that's how things happen. So also in a nation is driven by a mindset. The mindset and leadership is politics. Okay, the person who says, let us do this today, let's go this way, let's go up, let's come down, and so on, is politics. So it's the mind of this of the nation, is the mind of the government, is politics. Now, that politics, when that politics is not right, everything goes wrong. And the way we have crafted our politics in our nation has not been very helpful. And the problem is because a lot of the politicians and the political parties, all they understand is power, just for the sake of power. We want to grab the power and get in there and begin to loot the state treasury as well. But nobody tells you about development. Nobody tells you about economics, how to make the money before you even spend it, how to create jobs for all these youths. Nobody tells you about how to improve the education. They are only interested in grabbing power, removing those other people from position and putting their own, and continue to loot the nations. That's what we do in all of Africa. But we need to come out of that mindset. And you know, in Cameroon we have between 350 to 330 to 350 political parties. That's a very poor sign. In reality, we shouldn't have more than 5 political parties if we are doing things properly. And that's going to happen because, and the person that is going to make that happen is the CPD.
And it is in a bid to promote democracy.
No. It's in a bid to distract. It's not in a bid to, you know, it's not about having those many political parties and associations that things work. It's in a bid to create a lot of animosity so that people, that's why hate speech went up. So people don't know what to think of, and then so they spend time insulting each other and fighting each other instead of focusing on real things of the nation. No, the many political parties are intentionally made to be a distraction.
A distraction. Could you equally say that it is in a way to rigged elections?
I'm not so sure about that, but when there are 350 of you, you are so distracted you can't agree on anything. Just like the Anglophones who are not agreeing on anything, and so because okay, whether the elections are conducted properly or not in Cameroon, but you would agree with me that for the past how many years, ever since the SDF came on, if the major political parties had stood as one man, as you would say, and put in only one candidate and stood behind that one candidate, they would have won. It doesn't matter what kind of elections were put in place. But because of that, they are bickering. You know, anything can happen, and then you never get it. So don't blame the elections. Blame yourselves for not being able to wear one cap.
So how well then should we use politics to develop our country?
Now, the good news is that the politics in 2022 is going to change, and that's what is going to change the mindset. The politics is going to change big time, and what's going to happen is that, you know, the way political parties are spread in any nation under the earth is you have what you call the right and left. They are referred to as right and left. Okay, if I were to spread out my hands now, but you will have the extreme right, which is at the extreme right of my fingers, and then you have the extreme left. Usually the party that is not progressive, the party that is how do you say it, wants the status quo to just be as it is usually referred to as the right, and the party that wants rapid change is the left. So if we were to take examples from our country, the CPDM is the party of the right, the extreme right, and the SDF is the party of the extreme left. Are you seeing that? All the other 350, including the MRC and everybody, is sandwiched in there. Now, if the CPDM were to become progressive in their mindsets, progressive means you copy some of the good ideas from the MRC and you copy some of the good ideas from the SDF. By the way, you copy the ideas, you don't have to take their permission. You copy the ideas and then you appropriate them, you make them look like they were your own. You own them. You don't even need to thank them for it. You own them and begin to play your drums and say, I'm doing this. And then, so if the SDF or the CPDM were to do that and start doing things, you know, putting those things into action and claiming the glory, then it's like pulling the carpet from under the SDF and the MRC. You see that? They will have very little to be talking about, because now all they are doing are pointing fingers at
each other, bullying each other.
Sorry?
Bullying each other.
Yeah. So if you just do that, even without doing anything, it's about doing. You put them in a lot of difficulties. Are you getting me? And then you do the things, and then you show the population what you are doing, and you put those parties in difficulties. Then all these mushroom things that call themselves presidential majority and whatever, they will have nothing to offer. They will just die. You know, so kill them.
All right, Doctor.
Spray them with weed killers.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for accepting our invitation. It has been a pleasure having you, because we've come to the end of today's edition. A message to our viewers right away.
Oh, thank you very much. It's like, again, trust me, this year is going to be a great year, and Cameroon is going to be one of the best countries in Africa. Thank you.
You compare them, the best countries, more than Ghana.
Yeah, no, we are going to be. We are going to be.
Nigeria
and Botswana. We are going to beat them.
Botswana, of course.
Yeah.
That said, we've come to the end of today's edition. Televiewers of Viewpoint, and in particular DBS Television. Dr. Ningwanyam, the man who saw the tomorrow of Cameroon. Hopefully, or we believe that all these things, be it positive, will come to pass this year, 2022. Stay tuned to DBS Television and enjoy our programs. Goodbye. See you tomorrow. God willing.